This is Stephen Kotler, and you're listening to Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
This is Christina Rasmussen, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, Cultural Creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back. I'm Trey Downs, and this is Your Superior Self. Thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me today. Thank you for downloading. Make sure to hit subscribe and leave a rating and a review. It helps me scale the show, helps me get this out to those who are listening to their egos still, not aware of the greatness that is inside of them, the greatness, that consciousness, that awareness that is waiting to be unleashed into their lives to help them be more fulfilled and find their fulfillment, to find their journey, to find their purpose in life and lead them, pull them like a magnet to where they need to be. And to help me wake you up slowly to say, it's time. It's time to wake up, time to get up. Let's go. To spread more awareness, to bring more awareness about her journey. I have Sibyl Chavis on the show. We have I don't know how else to put this. One of the most powerful conversations about one's journey in today's episode. Very powerful. It's not easy to admit or even talk about one's journey without being very humble, without being very transparent. And Sibyl brings it all and leaves it all on the table. And to give you some context, here's a small preview of what's to come.
And because I didn't want to be attached to goals. I didn't want it to be my ego. And I was always suspicious, and I overcorrected for it to make sure it wasn't my ego, because for so long it was. Mm. And so I'm like, let me just overcorrect for this until I know I've healed it.
Oh man, I feel like she's telling my life story right there. Like, throughout my life, I was operating from the level of the ego and not even knowing it. Like, totally asleep in hibernation in the ego. Totally not even on my radar of what I am operating from. Total operation of the ego. I would get jealous. I would get angry. I would be competitive. I would be, I don't know. What else does the ego do? It basically lies to you and tells you need things because, you need to have it because that's what everybody else is having. And you don't have it, you're not good enough. You're not worthy. You're not doing the things you need to do. Oh, you want to be spiritual? Why do you have what? You don't need to be spiritual because you don't have time for that. You need to get your little ass in gear and you need to go do these things because if you're not doing the right things to be successful. And that was the ego talking directly to me, ruining my life, I feel like I was on a treadmill going nowhere. It wasn't until I awakened to the idea of an ego being separate of myself that would try to steal the day from the being that is Trey. And it still sneaks up. But I am aware now. I'm aware of when I'm asleep to the ego. And what do I do when I awaken? No, I don't struggle it or strangle it. I invite it in for tea, as Ram Dass would say. I sit with it. And I realize that he's been operating for the last hour or so. And I kind of step back into my mindfulness and I look at everything that he's been trying to get me to do. And I just allow myself to feel the difference in how I was operating before when I was operating from the ego and how I'm operating when I am being mindful. And how much I like being mindful and how much I like my body more when I'm mindful, when the less chemicals, stress chemicals that are being released in my body. Today's episode is a great reflection on how far I have come It's a great reflection of the things that I still need to do. And it's a great conversation with Sibyl about her journey, about where she's come from, about the things that she has struggled with in her life to get to where she is today. Used to be a lawyer. Now she's working for Sounds True, working in an area that she never would have imagined that she'd be working. And she's creating a totally different life of service. And I love stories like these, and I think you will too. So I'm very excited about you being here right now, listening to this conversation, because I think there's going to be a lot of value in it. And I think that you're going to really connect with her story. But before we start this conversation, I want to say, head over to traydowns.com, leave me a message about your journey, what you guys are up to, what's going on in your life. I love hearing these stories. I love connecting with you, the audience. And then after you do that, I need you to go to abandonedchildrensfund.org and create more awareness for that organization. They are out there helping abandoned children around the world find love, find happiness, find clothing, find food, find education, bringing them in from off the streets and giving them a place to stay, giving them love, giving them that reality of feeling like a normal kid for a little bit. Maybe not even a normal kid, just a human being. Yep, spread awareness about this organization, abandonedchildrensfund.org. Head over there, share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram, share it on Twitter. Do what you got to do. Make sure people are conscious of their mission, because I think it's a great one. So without further ado, here is my conversation with the great and powerful Sibyl Chavis.
I'm Sibyl Chavis, and this is Your Superior Self.
I love it. Sibyl, thank you so much for joining the show. Fired up for you to be here. Your story is unique, but I feel like your story is very, anybody can relate to it. I can relate to it, but it's awesome that you did something with it. So let's go ahead and jump into that, shall we? Tell us about it. Like, how did it, like, you went to law school, you were a lawyer, you had student debt, like we all do. Started a family, right? Got married, started a family, did the 9-to-5er, probably more than that, probably 12 hours a day. What was missing in your life?
Yeah, I think like so many other folks I've come in to contact with, and I know I was even seeing the same similarities in your story. I just felt like there was something more. And it was hard because I couldn't really put my finger on it. And, I, like you said, I had gone to law school since the time I was 7. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer. And it seemed like everything was just lining up. And then you kind of get somewhere and you're like, I don't know if I've climbed the right mountain. And the challenging thing was I didn't really know, I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know what the answer was. So it was just a lot of uncertainty and kind of just trying to find my way through it.
What was the tipping point?
It's interesting because my husband and I, this is like 10 years into our career. We're both attorneys. And we both started feeling like, okay, there's something more. I couldn't put our fingers on it. And we were sitting around and we would brainstorm. We had this thing called talk night. And so every Tuesday, once a week, we would just sit and like, what are your dreams? What's your vision? Is this it? Are we doing it? And kind of after really just walking through that and both realizing this isn't it, we just started saying, okay, well, let's figure out how we get from where we are to where we want to be. And this took at the time I was probably like in my mid 30s and I had a child and I was just like, I feel like it's not the most responsible thing for me to do, to be having this crisis of career. And I have responsibilities. We have bills, we have kids. And so it would just keep going back and forth and back and forth. But that feeling that there was just like, there's just something missing wouldn't go away. And one night we were sitting down again, having the same talk we had had. And Rob was like, we've got to do it. Like, we have to quit our jobs. I was like, Rob, like, I know we've been talking about it. I can't do it. I just can't. I can't. Like, it just feels crazy. And I go on a business trip, and I could have stayed like at any hotel. I walk into the random hotel I've selected, and I go into the hotel room, and there's the sign that says, life is about creating yourself. And at that moment, like you said, what was the tipping point? I could just feel it. I was like, oh my goodness. And I walked in, and all the doubt, all the like, is this going to be okay? Am I crazy? You know, am I taking on too much risk? For that moment, it went away, and I had clarity. And I'll never forget, because I sat on my bed looking at the sign in my hotel room, and I started crying, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to quit my job. And, you know, I had been studying, you know, and reading lots of books and spirituality. And so I was kind of like gearing up for all of this. And I knew, I'm like, it's one thing to read all of it and to believe that you're supposed to take leaps of faith, and to believe that, you know, there's these infinite possibilities if you can just align with what the moment is asking for and go for it. Like, it's one thing to read it all, and then it's another thing to live it.
Sure.
And so I decided to live it. And I went home from that trip, and Rob and I both quit our jobs on the same day.
Man, that's freedom. That is, I bet, I mean, I don't know what you felt, but that has to be liberating. Like, to have that clarity, to go and do that, and to know that you're prepared for it. Right. I mean, I mean, you had responsibilities, you had bills just like everyone else, but you didn't have that fulfillment. And
no,
that's the key. That's like, you have to find that for yourself. Like, you have to, and you said you were reading spiritual texts and great, you know, what, like, so who was an author that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, the author that I have studied the closest with is Eckhart Tolle. And I actually get to work with Eckhart in the Eckhart Tolle team right now. And so this is, of course, 10 years ago before I got that opportunity. But I would just, you know, I don't want to say that yes, it was freedom, but I was really scared. I was terrified, because I knew it was the right thing to do, but I didn't have like an absolute feeling of, okay, this is 100% the time to do it. Everything is going to be okay. Like, I had to build my faith day by day and like find my way through the uncertainty. And I knew also it wasn't just about finding my new job and my career. Like, I also knew something inside of me is also changing. And so I want to align with that. I want to honor that. And I want to do my work. And so I would like listen to Eckhart's, you know, voice all the time. I made my own playlist. Anytime I'd start freaking out, like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work out, this is going to go crazy, I would just like, okay, let me go and just settle and listen to a teaching, listen to, you know, any type of reassurance that would align me with what I knew in my heart was true, even if my mind was freaking out. And that's why Eckhart's work was just really instrumental, because I was able to just be aware of what was going on and understand that it was okay if I had those moments when the fear would bubble up, and I had to do something to help them subside and to release some of that. I knew that going through that process, although it was super, super challenging, like, I was getting strengthened from an inner standpoint. I was getting insights that I didn't have just sitting in my job in my comfort zone. And so just kind of knowing that process was happening and being able to align with it. And of course, all of the spiritual books I'd been reading would, you know, tell me and point me in that direction. So it helped to have an awareness of what was going on. And, just keeping it real, it was still hard day by day. I always say it was like one of the hardest, best decisions that I ever made.
What did you do after you quit? Like, what did that look like?
I just sat in uncertainty, and so for so many years, I really used my job. Like, I'm a lawyer. I work at this company. This is who I am. I use that as a crutch to feel secure. And, not to make a long story short, but like anyone, I grew up, going through childhood, having my challenges. Am I weird? Am I accepted? Am I good enough? And so feeling like I had solved that finally when I got through law school and I'm working, that felt assuring. And then to get right back to the point where I was like quitting my job, back into uncertainty, like, am I good enough? Is this working? And I knew that was the work. I knew that was the inner work that I needed to do. And so I had to just take that leap of faith and sit in the uncertainty and figure it out. And so that's what I did. I also knew in my heart that there's going to be, like I say, a path to it. I say, like, we go up this spiral, right? And so there's times when I was on the front side of the spiral and like things are falling into place. I'm like, oh, I can do this. I'll create this brand. And things would fall into place. And I start talking to lots of folks online and people who are resonating. I build this community and I'm like, oh, this is working. And then like I'd come and I'd hit the backside of the spiral. I'm like, oh my gosh, nothing's working out. And I've quit my job. Like, what have I done? And I'd have those moments where I would just be freaking out on the backside of the spiral. But I'm like, do your work, read. This is it. Like, this is all coming up in this moment right now. So you can work through it. But for the fact that you are here, knowing you're on the backside of the spiral, this wouldn't come up and it's going to happen. You're going to get strengthened. It's like you're bending your knees and then you're going to propel and you're going to go to the next ring of the spiral and then the next and the next, but you're going to hit lots of backsides. You're going to hit your challenges and obstacles, which are really opportunities for you to get stronger, to find what you're supposed to do, to use that time and align with what the moment's asking for. Like, this is going to be your path. So knowing that made it easier to kind of navigate that process. And that's what I did step by step until I got up my spiral. And of course, Rob, my husband's going through it at the same time. He wants to be a TV writer and he's an attorney. Like, we're both kind of just knowing we're off our path, but he's doing the same thing. And we just took it day by day until we were able to get to the other side of what felt like a chasm in the beginning. And we had answers and, everything just really started aligning after we did the inner work, the transformation, the strengthening. And we both rebuilt the lives we really wanted to live.
He's writing now, right?
Yeah, he now writes on a show on ABC called Blackish. And, at the time he started at the bottom of the totem pole. They're like, you're a lawyer. You're not funny. Why are you here? And so he had to kind of go through his own transformation with it. And it was good because we were going through it together. And so we could kind of see how a lot of the things would be similar that were happening. It was also good because there'd be times he was freaking out, like, what have we done? And I'd be like, we're good. And then there'd be times where I was freaking out and he'd be like, we're good. So we were able to navigate it together and grow together, and our relationship grew together. I mean, it was a wild, crazy time, but it was meant to be.
Man, that's fascinating. That's fascinating to me. Like, that you had that support there, right? Like, you guys were obviously meant to do that together because you guys needed that. Because that's a big, going from a lawyer to a writer, and what you're doing now, your work now. Why don't you give everybody an update, like what your work is now?
Yeah. So I started, I knew I wanted to, and I had worked in real traditional, like a law firm. And then I worked in a marketing agency as an attorney. And I knew I wanted to take everything I had done and learned in business and legal and corporate and apply it to social impact work or social innovation work in the spiritual industry. And so I started building this website and this brand called The Possibility of Today. And I just started really documenting what I was doing and how I was living it. And I got a community of people who were like joining me in, everyone else taking their leaps of faith, and we were doing it together. And I then built like a business off of it, all about up spiraling, as I say. And, long story short, I am online one day and I'm just looking around and I see an advertisement for the Eckhart Tolle Foundation. And they're looking for somebody to come create this foundation. And the company that was looking for it was Sounds True. And I mean, I had known Sounds True for so long because they, have all of these spiritual authors and their programs and courses that they're bringing to life. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I sent in like my resume. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to help build Eckhart's foundation. I'd love to work for Sounds True. And then I was at the time, I still do, I live in LA. I sent in this email and I got back a autoresponder. It's like, oh, this position is in Colorado. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. And then the next day I got a call from Sounds True, and the rest is history. Figured out, how I can stay here with my husband and my kids in Southern California and still help and contribute. And so I'm now there. I'm over the business to consumer division at Sounds True. And I get to work with Eckhart Tolle and just so many of the other authors that I read and studied for so long as I was going through my own transition.
That's awesome. Do you get to like have like personal conversations with them, or is it always like business?
With the authors, they're authors, they're spiritual teachers and they want to help. And so there'll be times where we will get to have those conversations because we'll be eating dinner after a minute, or we'll be preparing like for a program and a course together. And they're like, wait, what's on your heart? What are you going through? Because if you're going through that, then there's other folks who are going through it. So yes, I get to ask personal questions, which has been a really good reward to be able to get guidance from some of the wisest people that I have always admired and looked up to and read and trusted. That's definitely a benefit that I have like so much gratitude for.
Oh, absolutely. I was looking at some of the authors. You guys have killer authors. So jealous of you right now, but that's like, I'm like, I have a library behind me. It's all like something sparked inside of me. I'm 38 now. Like it happened right around 33, 34. Like I started having this transformation inside of me that was like, there's something more. And it wasn't like every book kind of led to the next, and I couldn't get enough. And Eckhart Tolle is one of them that I read, a lot of his work. And it was, I started getting into some non-traditional books too, like people are tired of hearing me talk about Robert Monroe and his out-of-body experiences, and Raymond Moody. I'm a big fan of Raymond Moody. He's been like a mentor to me about near-death experiences, and it just one thing led to another. And it's like the more that I get to have this idea about what we truly are inside of us, and the more that I, as Raymond Moody would say, from the oracles of Delphi, know thyself, the more that I realize how divine I truly am, and how we're all, from a macro one. You might not be able to see it now because the ego is so involved in our everyday operations and how we communicate, and, obviously you see society and how that was, it's a big mechanism. But at the if you take a step back and just look at it from a spiritual soul level, you can see like just how everything is connected. Like, talking with some great, Urban Laszlo, one of the greatest thinkers of our time, what is reality? Like, what is this? Is it a hologram? Because if it is a hologram, like the physicists say, then even the space in between us is a part of the whole. We are a part of the universe. We are just a fragment of that. And inside of us is everything. I mean, if you look at the cells in our bodies, everything operates like the universe, everything. Everything is a part of the whole. And it freaks people out when they hear this. So that's like my mission, right? Like, is to have people, some great thought leaders, people like yourself who made drastic changes in their lives, but now are doing what they love and finding that fulfillment and making it available to people, just like kind of sparking that interest for people, lighting that spark. That's my mission, because it happened to me and I needed to get it out. I'm not trying to convince people, of these concepts. I'm just trying to put it out there and let the energy itself, because I'm a big believer that when I put something out, like I put my entire being into that. You, Sibyl, come in and you give me your energy, and together we put this episode out, and it attracts this type of energy. And then some people are going to get turned on to it. Somebody might say, I want to hear her story. And they listen to it and they're like, oh man, I'm fired up. To find out that Sibyl, she was a lawyer and then she quit her job and now she's working at this great foundation. And she has her own MBA. Like, she helped do that, right? Like at what is it, in New York, NYU. Fascinating stuff. And then that sparks other people because they listen to that person. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
I totally understand. And it's interesting too, because as I 100% agree with everything you said. And there is a lot of it that is mysterious. And so it's not something that you can necessarily see or hold or grasp. It's not something you've been taught in school, but it's something we all know in our hearts and can feel. And in this moment in time, I really feel that there's so many people who are feeling it even deeper. Like, after coming out of what we've all gone through, as Eckhart says, this time of enforced stillness where we had to stay home and really had an opportunity to look at the inner journey, look at our experience, look at what we value most. It's an opportunity for those who feel that this is the time and resonate with it for a great transformation. And I don't think that everyone needs to go quit their jobs. That's by no means what I'm saying. But I do believe that everyone has something in their heart they can feel in this moment in time that they're meant to do. Or they're already doing it and they know they're meant to do it on even bigger level, which is why they're listening to us right now. And so I really just like to reassure people, because that reassurance was so helpful for me those times when I doubted it. Like, no, you're not crazy. Like, no, that voice you hear, not only is it okay to listen to it, you're supposed to listen to it. And you don't have to have all the answers today. And you may have no idea what it's going to look like in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. But if there is something today that you can feel in your heart that is just aligned with who you are and your soul, it's coming from that deep place. One, you're meant to do it. And two, there is a path to it. And it's just about taking it step by step and day by day, lining up everything that you know, understanding that you can sit in the uncertainty and what you don't know, and really go within, and answers will come piece by piece, step by step. And that's the process. And it's amazingly transformative, as I know you know. It's not just about changing what you're seeing on the outside, because that's really a reflection of what's on the inside. And so turning your attention to that, which a lot of people just sit and work. Okay, yeah, there are things to do, but understanding for me that this really is also about my inner journey and doing both to accelerate my progress up this path was one of the greatest insights I had while I was doing it.
That's powerful. Yeah, because I want to be not example. I don't know if I want to be at the example. I want to be like, I want to demonstrate, like I want to put on a clinic of how you can recreate reality. I'm not talking about like this right now. Like I understand that the idea that every decision that I've created or made in this life, I've created this reality, like everything, but it was unconscious, right? Like it was just kind of like, I was programmed by society. I had all of the programmings from when I was a younger kid all the way up to now. And like, I was following that, that script. Now it's like, after I've had this enlightenment, as far, not like, crazy enlightenment, but like, this awareness, this awakening to myself and inner greatness, like I consciously want to recreate it. Like I want to recreate it, like change it and be like, look guys, this is all within us. Like I am Trey Downs, right? I am this idea of a personality that I just made a decision that I was going to change the things in my life, and I was going to do this work. And this is what I've been able to create, through hard work, right? Through doing the thing that fires me up, by reading, by researching, by meditation, through all of the great, things that they tell you to do. This is what I've been able to create. And I want to share that with people. And I want to, the podcast is one of them. I want to be able to awaken people, especially like our generation, and show them. I'm tired of living, having this example that is pushed on me about what we should be doing. Like this whole idea that what success looks like in the Western world is just not it. It has never been it. And people need to at least look at that. They need to, I was scared to death to even think about like reincarnation or, think about meditation and talking to my higher self and possibly channeling, outside sources, whatever. But as I took it step by step, like you were talking about, like the more that I learned about myself and learned about, just the universe, like it makes sense to me, right? Like, and to spread that knowledge to help people find the inner peace is like my mission. And it's not about ego at all. It's not that, like, at all. It is about, through my mission, through my work, is helping create that oneness that is all of us. By helping myself, I help you, right? Like by learning from you, I help the next person. And that's my mission, like, I don't know if you can resonate with that.
I absolutely do. And I think for me, and it's probably or possibly also similar, I think for a lot of people, and maybe you too, I always say, like, we're counting to infinity. Like I took this last leap of faith and I really showed up. I did my work. Like, there was suffering. I was like, I just dove into it and released things I needed to release, healed things. I'm a Black woman in America that has been challenging for me to be. And there were things that I took as I was going through undergraduate school, and people were like, oh my gosh, how are you here? What are you doing? When I got into Harvard Law and I was crossing the border because we were coming in from Michigan, and I was coming in through Canada, and I was going to law school. I'd finally gotten in. I'd worked so hard in undergrad to get in to Harvard Law. It had been my dream since I was 7. And I'm so excited, and I'm crossing the border and, coming back into the States because I came this route. And the guy at the border, when I was coming right back in, was like, oh, why are you here? Why are you like coming back into the States? I'm like, oh, my mom's like, she's going to law school. Well, like, we're also trying to get past the border. And he's like, well, where's she going? And I'm like, I'm going to Harvard Law, and I was just like celebrating because I was kind of shocked I had gotten in. And he was like, oh. And so there were parts of me as I was kind of growing up that felt, that was my story and why I felt less than, because there were people who put that on me and I let them do that. I internalized that. And I know that there's so many other folks who have stories of people who have taken their power and had them not feel good enough. And it was wild because even I'm out of law school, I've graduated from Harvard Law, and I still have this doubt of residue in me that starts, from the time I was probably like 7 or 9 and going through just living life, and it had built up. And the only way that I feel like I was able to start healing that was really rising to like, what is this moment asking for? Taking leaps of faith and understanding that every challenge that would come up as I was trying to accomplish something was going to lift up my doubts and my fears and those times I had been hurt and those everything that I was holding on to in my mind and my body that was still contaminating my present moments. And I wasn't even aware of the stuff that you just build up. And so for me, going through that journey, in all honesty, like I'm so happy, yes, like we have done it. We have created this next career. We're both loving what we're doing. And it's amazingly rewarding to be able to serve in this way, to be able to serve the teachers that I adore and love and just have so much reverence for, to serve their work and help share it with the world. 100%. I love that part of it. And it has been so instrumental in my life to get here and to have to do the work it took for me from an internal standpoint to heal and to work through all of that. And I know that it's not over. And so I will continue to deepen into it. I feel like I have a practice. I feel like I know what's going on. I feel like, okay, I'm going to just go up this next level of my life and up spiral. And yes, the outer, I'm going to create more and more. But most importantly, we're all deepening more into who we really are. And as you said, really understanding the magnitude of that and the magnificence of that and expanding our consciousness happens as we're navigating through these challenges, these obstacles. What just seems like an ordinary goal is really an opportunity to deepen more and more into who we are and recognize that. And so here I am again on yet another spiral. But yeah, that just feels like it's going to be an ongoing thing. I feel like we are counting to infinity. And for that, that means to me, just deepening more and more into who we really are.
Sure. No, I struggle with that though. Like I do, because it's like, I don't want to, and I hear you 100%. Like I hear you, but I don't want it to be like that game of leveling up and being like, I need to level up because it's to level up. It's like, I don't want to, I don't know if that makes sense or not. Like, I don't want to create another goal because it's just a goal, you know, like I want to find a thing, and I feel like you're doing the thing by serving, but I want it to, how do I say this? I want it to be ego-less, but I want it to be the thing that power, like, I guess what I'm getting what you're saying about going up and leveling up. And I think you're meaning like that internal leveling up, not like the ego, like not, I need to do something more on a bigger, grander scale. But for me, it's like, I need to level up because I need to expand more as a consciousness. I need to learn more. There's so much out there that I haven't learned that I want to learn, you know, because as I fine tune this vessel, this body, this mind, the higher consciousness that I obtain and the more information that I gain. And I do this by meditation. I do this by working out. I do this by eating right and eating healthy and, you know, doing the right things in my life. And as I do that, my body operates at a higher level, which allows me to access, you know, my mind becomes a receiver of consciousness. And I start getting like little gamma spikes in my brain of, you know, insights of things that I start writing down. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? Like, I don't even know where this came from, you know, like, you know, I'm in a writing class. I'm going back to school for psychology. I want to start looking more into, you know, different holistic methods of therapy, you know, whether it be psychedelics, you know, with maps or whatever. But introducing people to consciousness, to awareness, to the other side, lifting that veil for them. That's what I'm really into. Like MAPS is doing an amazing job with MDMA, with PTSD patients and addiction and alcoholics. And it's just amazing that we're getting back into that. And the government is going along with, well, I wouldn't say going along with it. They just passed the third clinical trials with the FDA. but like 59% of patients with PTSD are showing little or no signs. 59% after going through 3 clinical trials, and that's just with MDMA. It's fascinating work, and to be like a facilitator of that, I mean, it might not be your thing, but you have to look at it as a method, as a way to experience the universe, the cosmos. Like, you know, Ram Dass talked about this. I mean, even though he experienced with LSD, and I'm not saying go experience with LSD because it can be very harmful to your brain, it led him to his spiritual path because he saw it and it sparked something inside of him. He was able to see the cosmos. He was able to see it, but he wasn't able to stay there. He talks about that in his writing.
Yep.
That was hell. He would experience heaven, and then he would experience hell by coming back.
Yeah.
That stuff, right? How do I find heaven here for myself? How do I stay in that state? You know,
Yes.
and reading authors that you represent is what's helping me. So thank you for your service.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I really appreciate, you know, just to revisit into the clarification you made, because when I'm saying up spiraling, what I feel like, you know, and I'll use a short term for goal, but Carolyn Mace will call it, and she calls it sacred contracts. Like, we all come here and we have sacred contracts. For me, what has happened is fulfilling these, which call them goals, call them sacred contracts. Fulfilling these has allowed me to align deeper and deeper with what is my purpose. Why am I here? Like, so, you know, I think we're all answering like, who am I? Why am I here? Okay, what am I supposed to do with that every day? Those 3 questions. And so it's interesting for me because how it manifests for me is that I feel like my goals or my sacred contract, as I know you have said, they stopped being egoic, right? So now my goal is to really show up at Sounds True and to serve these teachers' work so that more and more people can be introduced to it. So we have goals for, hey, we want to make certain that we have 10,000 people going through this program with Inner MBA. It's a program that Sounds True is launching to help elevate conscious business. We call it Conscious Business Rising. And so internally, our team, we have a goal. We want to impact lots and lots of corporations and share, like, this is a 9-month program. We have been working on it. Our CEO has put her love and blood and sweat and tears into the curriculum. And so now I feel like it's one of my sacred contracts that I'm supposed to help fulfill this. And so how do I help get more and more folks introduced to this program? This is my goal. You know, we had like 200 Googlers. Now we're in year 2. How can I get 1,000 Googlers, along with more people from LinkedIn, along with people who have non-traditional careers that aren't even coming from corporate America? Like, how do we get nonprofits involved? And we have a lot of veterans and, you know, first responders. How do we get this awesome group of people together, give them access to the best wisdom teachers, the best business trainers, one of the most awesome curriculums where they're learning how to use like somatic body work and their intuition to make business decisions before they go into a meeting or when they're coming up with an idea? Like, how do we align all of that and the alchemy of that and synergize and practice conscious business as a team while we bring that to the world? Like, so those are the goals that now I feel come to me in those moments, like you said, of meditation, when I'm really still. And so it's not necessarily about, I need to achieve this, I need to achieve that. It's like, this is how I want to contribute. This is how I want to be of service. And that purpose. And for me, you know, I'm an athlete. I used to play tennis. Like, so that competitive spirit in me loves the challenge of it, loves the kind of goal. There's something in me that pushes and aligns with it. And for me, it's just really coming into balance with that and understanding that that's actually helped me deepen into myself and who I really am, because it means I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to grow. I'm going to, you know, work through the junk. And it helps me get up at 5 or 6 in the morning when I'm like, oh gosh, I need to go running. And then I need to sit down and figure out, okay, how are we going to get this next group of people? So that really has been the most fulfilling part is that my goals have changed, and now they're goals to be of service.
I love the the contracts you talk about. Like that's fascinating to me. Like so like some people call it karma, you can call it contracts, whatever. I'm just learning about that now. And it's very interesting because it's like I look around at people in my life and I'm like, do I have a contract with you? Do I have to work something out? Like, like it's kind of it's amazing. Do you ever do like some of the non-traditional stuff? Like, do you ever consult like psychics or healers or Akashic records? Do you do any of that?
Yeah, I'm very non-traditional, but like you said, this is something I have grown into.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an energy healer. I have a spiritual journey consultant. Sounds true. We have a spiritual organizational therapist. I mean, and by sounds true, we live what we sell. So we have lots and lots of opportunities every day where we're practicing all of the content that we're learning from our teachers and teaching. And I definitely, I feel open to it all. I do Qigong every Friday morning. If I would look back on myself 20 years ago, I'd be like, what have I turned into? But this is, I think this is a year of just really exploring your inner wildness. And that I'm not saying go crazy, but like, just what are you curious about? What have you never tried? Are you interested in doing some subtle energy work? You should, like, this is, I think more and more of that is coming to surface and becoming more of the quote unquote status quo, more accepted. For me, it's something I've really been into. I've been into like quantum physics for a long time. And so I just have kind of been into that part of it and feel super open to everything. I feel everyone has a different path. But there are things that I know help your vibrational frequency rise, which then allows you to deepen more into who you are, allows your consciousness to expand. There are lots of different ways to go about it. And I do think you should have something or several things that you do. But, I think everyone finds their way to what works for them best.
Sure. No, I love everything you're talking about. I had my Akashic records read like twice. And it's just like, it's like that vibration thing, right? Like it's not even like if it's, your analytical brain is like trying to figure out, all right, it's taking notes while they're talking. Like, that can't be right. That it doesn't make sense. This doesn't equal, to where we're at in time. It's like, whatever feels good here, like, this is it, I've read in many books where it says, the truth is simple. It is that simple because it is truth. If it feels good to you, then that's all that matters, because everyone's life is so subjective. It's like, your reality is different than my reality. Like, I always often quite, think about like, does the thing behind me disappear because of, the theories of quantum physics, right? Like the double slit experiments and, how, matter can be, or, energy, what is it? Particles can be, or energy can be, whatever it is, the energy particle wave thing. Where the intelligent observer is what makes it a particle or solid, right? And then when the intelligent observer is not there or not looking, then it turns into a wave. So I often quite think about what is reality, like what is my reality? And there's always stories about, the guys that are holding different parts of the elephant, and they describe it in different ways. It's because it's their reality. It's the way they perceive it. So everyone's reality is subjective. So when I do things, when I am out in public or I'm out in work or podcasting or whatever, like, as long as it feels good to me, and that is my reality, and it's great. But when it feels like crap, it feels like crap, and that's my reality too. But I have to do things like I have to raise my vibration to get me back into that. And one method that I have found that works for me is I will do this visual, I can't even say it, visualization of like me doing the thing that I want to do. And like very detailed. I mean, like, I'm talking about me and Joe Rogan hanging out, having a podcast, like that detailed. I imagine myself being much older, him being much older, but we're like, for some reason, I don't know why, but we're at this beachfront and we're hanging out in the studio, just having a good time with his boys. And I'm hanging out and I can feel it. I can feel everything in it. And it automatically raises my vibration. But another cool thing of that is, another method that I use is, if I'm feeling down for whatever reason, like I've been happy before, in a particular situation. If I'm sad, I can think about me being happy. And then in that moment, I am both. So for whatever reason, I don't know what mechanism it is. I don't know what it is biologically, but when I think about me being happy at times, it raises me back up to like, baseline. And same, I mean, I've done the same thing when I'm happy too. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to last long, but there's something in philosophy, they call that. But when I'm down, those are the two methods that I use. I'll immediately picture me doing the thing that I want to do of my heart of hearts. Not because, Joe Rogan's just a figure. It doesn't, it could be anybody. It could be, I have, Wayne Dyer was I'm a big fan of his work. And, Oprah and, Joe Rogan and all these other people. Like I envision myself having a conversation with them, and details to the T. I mean, I'm talking about the color shirt, the smells, everything. And then that makes me feel so good. And then if I'm down, think about a very, very happy time and how you felt. And then in that moment, you are both. And then that automatically raises your vibration. So I don't mean to take over the show. I feel your vibration.
To you. Keep going. Yes.
You're over here crushing it. I mean, you've helped create an inner, business. What is it? Emotionally intelligent MBA. I mean,
yes. Yeah. When I didn't create it, this is a program by Sounds True, but yes, the Inner MBA. And I just think though, what you said is, it really is about what works for you ultimately. And if it is those techniques you said, then again, I think we all have them. And for me, what has just been really helpful is remembering everything's just pointing you back to the present moment and settling with that, whether it was like quantum physics and I would go and geek out on that for like some months, or, whether it's actually all of the teachings that I'm reading or all the esoteric text, it's all pointing to an experience. And when you sit and you feel that experience, your vibration is there, right? And so whatever it is that gets you there, like you said, if you're sad, you're focused on happy, like you're really building that practice in your mind. Your synapses are wiring together and firing together in a really, really good way. The more and more you practice that, every moment you notice, I feel a little off. Let me go practice it this way. And that repetition and that experience is meant to be felt in the body, and it is a change. And then you let go of that practice and you try another practice. Or then, it's just, again, for me, it's really just using your inner compass, figuring out what works for you, knowing it's going to evolve and change over time, all the time, and rising to it, aligning with it, having fun with it, figuring it out, being curious, and knowing again, though, it's nothing in the mind. It's all about a feeling and an experience. And those are pointers to the experience. Absolutely.
Yeah. I used to think that you had to go to India, to an ashram, to experience oneness. I could do it right here. It's just, you got to go in. You got to go in and inside the heart. That's where it's always been the heart,
It has. I was the same way. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to continue to practice because, and this is before I went to Sounds True. I'm like, I feel like I need a guru. I don't have anyone who's really teaching me. All I'm doing is sitting around reading this stuff and, doing meditations. But like, I need somebody who's just taken me under their wings and is teaching me. That was just never something that showed up for me. Right. But I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing my work. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to keep loving people, expanding my heart, learning and growing. And I'm not going to let my mind convince me of some perception of what's necessary, because all I'm like, I just want to love and enjoy life and be good to people and serve, and so that is something that changes all the time.
Well, let me ask this. What is that next level? Like we talked about the levels, like what is your next level?
Yeah. I'm actually going to take your correction because I don't necessarily feel like it's like about going to a level. For me, it's about deepening more into who you are. And visually for me, it's just super helpful in this dimension to see the visual of it spiraling up. Right. like on days when I'm freaking out, it's really helpful for me to say, oh my gosh, there goes my chief negativity officer. I'm on the backside of the spiral, but hello, I know if I just keep taking steps forward, no matter what, it's going up. Right. And so it's easier for me to see it visually from this dimension as up spiraling. However, as you were saying, as I sit back and really think about the bigger picture, what is going on here? Can I sit back as the observer and understand that what's really happening is my personality, Sibyl, is aligning with my soul. And I'm going deeper into that. And my soul is helping me, the personality, rise to its highest self. And then I'm picking up on my sacred contracts and the things that I'm supposed to help manifest. And my personality, mind, body, spirit is all aligning beautifully for that. Now, that means I have to do work on my mind. That means I have to do work on my body so that my spirit can come and align with it. But that is the process for me of really just aligning with what this moment is asking for.
Drop the mic on that one, because you can't do any better than that. Yeah, I mean, I know for me personally, I have to walk that fine line because I'm like you. I'm very competitive. Like I come from a background, of sports, of playing into that, like that role of competition, of win-loss, of being the best, competitive. And it's not bad. It's not something. I think striving for something and putting work in builds your character, and it builds you who you are, and it builds a foundation. But I have to be very careful of that because I can fall into that, with my goals, with the things that I want to do. It could easily turn into ego. And it happened when I first started the podcast. It was very business. It was very like, I was very blue collar. I wanted to teach business basics to blue collar guys because I saw that they had an opportunity to really succeed in that, with electricians, plumbers, and things like that. But I saw the podcast turning into something I didn't want it to, right? Like I wasn't being my true self. And it wasn't until like I started interviewing like psychiatrists or psychologists, people that came from this background, which I started getting into the non-traditional modalities, that really turned it around for me. And I was like, man, it's not that at all. Like, it's not me trying to be like that guy who's sending out invites for a mastermind and trying to make money off it and membership fees and subscriptions and things like that. It's not that at all. It's, for our side hustle. It turned into my MBA. This podcast is my MBA. This is my inner MBA. Every conversation that I have grows me to that next step, that next level that you're talking about on this plane. And I have to be careful of that, because once I start looking at the grander picture of where I want to go, that's when the competitive kicks in. It's like, all right, as soon as I click in, I'm like, my eyes are set on the goal, and I have to give it up sometimes. Like I can't try to control everything. Like I have to let the universe do it. Like it messes with me a lot, because it's like, you think you're on your game, your A game. And it's like all these great guests are coming to you and the downloads are coming in, and it's like craziness. And then it's like, then it stops. And it's like, man, what happened? Like it's just like Ram Dass, where, he'd go do LSD and he'd be up here and he'd be like in one with God. And then as soon as that stopped, you'd be down at the bottom and you'd be in hell. Same thing with this. I have to be very careful with it, because I'm very easily triggered into that competitive mode and trying to be something that I'm not. And all the endorphins are kicking, and I'm knocking down all these goals and success, and I'm firing all cylinders, and then I'm addicted to it. And then I keep pushing it, and then it turns into something that it's not. And then I fall back down to hell, and I can't figure out how to get out. So for me, it's for me to be complete, to me to be whole, I have to step back and be the truest self that I can possibly be. And that is allowing the universe to do its work, allowing the cosmos to come to me, and me start picking up signs and reading material, and kind of not making it about me, but making it about the guest and the content that we're producing. That way it gets out to people so that they can, listen to it and become more aware and be more curious and spark and look up your MBA program and see, all the great teachers that you have. I mean, I looked at them, they're phenomenal. And to think about what you're doing for the business world. Like I kind of feel bad for the first graduates coming out and going into the world and being like, this is what we're going to do. And they're going to be like, what are you talking about? We're going to meditate before this conference call? I don't think so, pal. Like they got to be prepared for that. But I mean, that the fact that you're doing that, you're going to make so much change because, it starts with that resistance. You're going to have that resistance when they come out, but you've given them the tools to be prepared for that. And then when they meet that resistance, they're going to be like, they're not going to care. You know what I mean? Because they're going to come out from their heart and they're going to just change the workplace. And I just think it's fantastic work.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We're really excited about the program. And, it really is also aligning with what is just transforming in the world. And like you said, every corporation, every business entity has not necessarily evolved to the point where they're focused on conscious business, but a lot have. And so creating these ambassadors in the world that are then taking all of this back to Google, back to LinkedIn, who has like a head of mindfulness, like all of these corporations, heads of wellness, this is something that's so much bigger than just any one or any program. Like the universe is shifting the way that business is happening. And it's an old game. It's an old paradigm at this point, and a false belief for anyone who thinks you can just keep doing it the same old way, where you're just driving business, driving profits, focused on competition. As you said, like it has evolved, right? And so now we all get the opportunity to do our own work, rise to our own transformation and evolve with what's happening. So we're resonating and we're vibrating at the frequency that is unfolding in the world. And that's what the Inner MBA is about. And just revisit like what you were saying about competition too, because I think it was such an important point. And there are folks who are like you and me, who are just like, I don't know. I think I woke up competitive. I was just born competitive. My kids are competitive. It's like just in my blood. And, I can't even play Monopoly without getting competitive.
Stealing the money.
Yeah, whatever. But this is what it's changed into, like that awareness of it. I'm like, my competition has changed into what I think is healthy passion. Right. And so I now I'm competing against myself, my former self. How can I be better today than I was yesterday? How can I make better decisions? How can I show up differently? How can I love more? How can I compete with my former self? Because I want to do my work. I want to go, I want to expand. I want to vibrate at the frequency I'm meant to vibrate at. So it's no longer competing against other people or other companies or setting goals and trying to compete just for the sake of hitting a revenue goal. It's really understanding like that drive that's in that competition, that oomph can really actually be harnessed and cultivated and turned into beautiful, pure passion that's aligned with who you are and your soul and your purpose. And then it's powerful because it's the power. It's the power that accompanies your love and your wisdom. And when you have love, wisdom, and power, then you're aligned. And so I have tried the point where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go and just really deepen in and, go for like 2 weeks and get really quiet and really kind of let that passion and that oomph just go. And I'm supposed to have those moments for 2 weeks. And then it's time to come back and serve. And like you said, when you're serving, resistance shows up. Like, oh, this person isn't aware of this program, or this isn't going to happen. And doubts show up on your team that I have to help align people like, no, we're doing this. Resistance shows up. That's when I'm like, I need to access my passion. My passion for all of us to rise to this so I can help everyone get rid of the fears and doubts in their mind, because we're trying to bring this program to the world. Right. And so again, for me, it has just been right sizing, aligning, healing all of the fear that's under competitiveness, like egoic competitiveness, like of not enough, healing that part of me, but still loving the purity of passion that keeps me driving and waking up at 5 a.m. to go and work and do more and sign up for more programs. And that, I had to come to terms with it because it used to scare me too. And because I didn't want to be attached to goals. I didn't want it to be my ego. And I was always suspicious, and I overcorrected for it to make sure it wasn't my ego, because for so long it was. And so I'm like, let me just overcorrect for this until I know I've healed it. And as I continue to do that, now understanding that this is actually and can be pure, beautiful passion, because it's all energy, consciousness expanding. And so can I get that competitive, dark, crazy, fearful energy? Can I heal that and get it to vibrate higher so that now it's pure passion? That is what I feel like I'm trying to continually align with. That's my new competition.
I never thought about it like that. Yeah, turning that into passion. Like I always thought it as, oh, it's just ego. Like that's just my competitiveness. That's my drive. That's my, I want to obtain this goal for this X, Y, and Z. Is it really for me, or is it for some? Is it ego less, or is it ego centered? Is it me trying to obtain something because I want the fame and fortune, money, blah blah blah, or is it me because I want to spread more awareness and help and health and just love? And I had to stop myself because there is a fine line. Like like you were talking about, like I just never really thought about that conversion into energy. It is energy. It's all energy. But if you convert it into passion, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you putting that energy back into the universe. And then like that is contagious. That's some good stuff there. I need to write that down. Sibyl,
I need to write down all the stuff you said.
Sibyl, I can talk to you all night. Like seriously.
Likewise. It's been so great to connect with you.
Where can people find you? Where can they connect?
I'd love for folks to join us in the Inner MBA. I will be there again for our year 2. Sounds true. InnerMBA.com. And that's where you can find me. I'll be there with the group of, hopefully, another large group of conscious business leaders and people who are really aligning, networking, learning, growing together, and helping shape the world.
I'm definitely going to share. Like, can people share it on social media? Can we do that?
Oh, yes. I'd love you to. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important work. Last question, kind of big, depending on the attachment to it. What do you want your legacy to be?
Gosh, I've never even really thought about that. But what I can tell you is that when it's all said and done, I hope that I have first and foremost been of service, and that I have used as many experiences and moments as I could to really deepen into my purpose, who I am, and that everyone I came into contact with knew that I loved them, felt that in that moment. So I feel like if I can do that, then I've done my work while I was here.
Powerful. I can definitely feel the love here. Much love to you too. This has been amazing. I can't thank you enough for taking the time and coming on here. Like, we have been truly blessed with your presence.
Right back at you. And thank you so much, Trey, for this show and everything you share with the world.